Hi everyone, today I'm going to be sharing with you the 10 makeup tips that have elevated my makeup game to the next level. My makeup now looks more natural, more skin-like, more flawless, and just more flattering on my skin. I've learnt these tips through either trial or error, through friends, through makeup artists, or through other YouTubers. So I'm going to pass these on to you today because they may be useful. We're going to get straight on with it. If you're new here, hi, my name's Gemma. I upload new content on YouTube every single week. I would absolutely love it if at some point in this video you're finding it helpful. Consider clicking on the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. So these tips have been super useful for me as I go into my 40s. So I'm now 42, and the makeup that I used to wear in my late 20s, early 30s, although I can definitely wear it now. I mean, you can wear whatever makeup you want. Makeup is there to have fun with, so wear whatever you like, apply your makeup however you like. But for me, just doesn't look flattering on my skin anymore. It's started to look a little crusty, a little dry, a little cakey, a little heavy. So these are the tips that I'm following now that have seriously helped me out. Tip 1, never ever ever skip skin prep. This is such an important step. I know I say this in all my tips and tricks videos. I know it's self-explanatory. I know it's common sense, but it's that step that's seriously easy to skip, especially if you're in a rush. You just jump straight into the makeup step and hope that everything's going to be okay. And deep down, you know everything's not going to be okay. It's going to look okay right at the very beginning, but then it's not going to wear well. It's probably going to look heavy and dry and cakey as the day goes on because you've skipped that most important step. I will list all of the products that I've used to prep my skin in this video in the description box just in case you want to check those out, but please do bear in mind just because it suits my skin at the moment doesn't automatically mean that it's going to suit yours as well. There will be something for everybody out there on the market. Also, I am completely aware that some of the products that I'm going to be using in this video are quite high-end products. Expensive is not always best. This video isn't really about product selection. It's more about the tips. So you will be able to recreate all of these tips at home with the makeup and the skincare that you already have. Tip 2, this is a tip that I keep going on about constantly, and it's a tip that I've had to really bear in mind over the last few weeks when my skin has taken a turn for the worst, and that is less is more. Less blush, less bronzer, less foundation, less concealer. You need a lot less than you actually think that you need. This is a tip that I have had to keep on reciting over and over again over the last couple of weeks, but my skin looks better for it. Tip 3. Cover over any imperfections, any blemishes, any spots with concealer before you go in with foundation, and let that concealer sit on your skin for a good 2 to 3 minutes before you go over it with a foundation. This just gives that concealer time to bond with the skin, to start to harden a little bit. It's less malleable, so it really does add to the coverage, and then it doesn't blend into nothingness when you apply foundation over the top. The concealer that I swear by for covering over imperfections on the skin is the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. I'm usually the shade Light to Vanilla in this concealer. I obviously have a little bit of fake tan on at the moment, so this is way too light for my skin tone, but I made it work. So cover over those imperfections first, let that sit for a little while, and then apply your foundation. Tip 4, pick the right foundation for your skin. If you've been using the same foundation for the last 10 years, probably it's around about time to revisit and see if there is a foundation that better suits your skin now, because that foundation guaranteed will not look the same on your skin now as it did 10 years ago when you first picked it and thought it looked amazing. Sometimes we can get in a little bit of a rut, not only with shade of foundation, but also with foundations themselves, because we know how the foundation is going to perform, we trust it, so we stick with it. And sometimes a change is as good as a rest. Tip 5, use your fingertips to apply your concealer underneath your eyes. This has been such a huge game changer for me. Not only will your fingertips warm the concealer so it's more flexible and movable underneath the eye, but also it will stop it from just sitting on the surface of the skin. It will really aid it to sink into the skin, to really melt into the skin. And because it's melted into the skin rather than sitting on the surface, chances are you're going to need less powder or even no powder at all to set this in place. And I know a lot of people, especially when you get to my age or above, we're all a little bit tentative of using powder underneath our eyes because it can really dry out the area and make it look a little creasy and a little dry. So it's a really good tip to help you need less powder or no powder at all. If you do want to achieve a little bit more coverage, but you don't want to apply more concealer because you're scared of that concealer creasing throughout the day, then just allow the concealer time to sit on the surface of the skin and start to dry down a little bit before you go in with your fingertips and blend it out. It really does work. And the last tip for concealer, don't forget to conceal the inner corners of the eye. A lot of people hold a lot of discoloration in those inner corners, and by forgetting to conceal those areas, you really are deepening the eye. Brighten up that area, make the eye a lot wider just by popping a little bit of concealer there, and it really will make you look more awake. Tip 6, this is my mum's favorite tip. She's been using this now for at least 9 or 10 months and it has seriously upped her makeup game. Her skin looks flawless, absolutely seamless, beautiful, just glorious ever since she's been using this technique. Now, if you are a fan of powder bronzers and powder blush, this tip will be for you, especially if you're often a little bit heavy-handed with the blush, like I am guilty of the majority of the time. Just get a little bit of powder, and you only need the tiniest bit of powder. So if you are one of those people that is a little bit frightened of face powders, do not worry, this will not show up on your skin. So get a little bit of powder on a powder brush, swirl it around, knock off the excess, and then swirl this all over the skin. This will blend out your bronzer and your blush seamlessly, make it flawless, airbrush your skin completely, and make the products not look like products that you've put on your skin anymore. Your skin will just look like skin. Flawless. Tip 7, give yourself a little bit of a brow lift. Now, we all lose brow pigmentation and fullness of brow as we age. I say all, the very rare few don't, you lucky people, but I know I'm losing brow fullness as I get a little bit older. So I like to give myself a little bit of a brow lift. Not only will this give the impression of a more fuller, more youthful brow, but it also lifts the angle of my brow on my face, makes it a little bit higher, so gives that lifted, more sculpted appearance. Once I've stuck my brows down a little bit and molded them into that more lifted position, I then slightly lower the inner corner of my brow with a brow pen. And when I say slightly, I really do mean slightly, probably only a millimeter. But that millimeter is big enough to give even more of a lifted look to the eyebrow. It makes that arch look a lot higher and look a lot more snatched and elevated. Much more of a facelift. Tip 8. I love an eyeliner, absolutely adore eyeliner. I think applied well, it can really change the shape of your eye and give that really lifted effect, which is something that I'm craving at the moment. But I used to line my eyes all the way from the inner corner in quite a rounded motion all the way to the outer corner, and that used to be super flattering on me. It used to make my eyes look huge. As I've aged, it's not as flattering. It looks a little bit too harsh on me. So what I've started to do now is start my liner from the center of my pupil and go out. And doing it that way, it's far softer, it's less harsh, it's just way more flattering on me. But not just that, using a liquid liner or a kohl liner has become slightly more difficult as my eyelids have aged. Everything's got a little bit crepier, a little bit more movable, and I don't want to be dragging the surface of my skin. That is definitely something that I do not want to do. So because of that, I've started to use an eyeshadow as my liner, and this has changed my world. Honestly, it is so much simpler. Why did I not do this before? I have no idea. You can use quite a deep eyeshadow if you're wanting something more dramatic, or use something slightly lighter if you're wanting something more muted and soft. It is so quick and easy to do. You can do a wing effortlessly, even if you have hooded eyes. Just look straight forward. Don't look down, don't look up, don't pull your eyes to the side. Definitely no. Just look straight forward, dot it on, get both sides the same, and then connect the dots to the little line that you've created from the center of your lid. It is just I feel a little bit silly for not thinking about this before. Why did nobody tell me? Tip 9 is all about the lashes and creating a really lifted appearance to the outer corner of your eye. This seriously does work. There are 2 tips here, and I very rarely do both of these tips at the same time. It's usually one or the other, but you can do both. So the first tip is to use a half lash on the outer corner of your eye, or a couple of individual lashes, which is what I choose to do. Now, I use the ones from Huda Beauty with the Huda Beauty Lash Bond, but you can use whichever lashes you choose. You can be as dramatic as you want to, but I tend to never go further than a third of the way up my lash line. I just find this really does give that lifted, sleeker appearance to the eye. But that's a little too dramatic for me for everyday wear, and also a little bit too time consuming for everyday. So often I don't use any false lashes and I just use mascara instead. So I apply very little mascara on the inner lashes, and I really use the mascara wand to fan those lashes off to the side and create a really dramatic edge, really going to town with the mascara on that outer corner to create some depth, to create some volume, to really create that length on the outer corner, which will give you the same effect as creating a false lash. Another little tip for you for the lashes that I actually learned from my friend Stephanie Marie: if you really suffer from smudgy mascara, then try and tap a little bit of powder onto the backs of your lashes that would touch your skin and create that smudginess. By applying a little bit of powder onto the tops of your lashes, you won't be able to see it, but it will stop the smudginess from happening. Also, apply a little bit of powder to your upper lids as well, which will make it completely bulletproof and you won't get any smudging. And finally, tip 10 is all about the lips. Now, I have really small lips. I had a non-existent top lip until I had a little bit of filler injected into it. And even though I have filler in my top lip, it's still incredibly small compared to other people's lips, let's say. So I like to overline my lips, and I used to go way too overboard on overlining my lips. So to prevent me from doing that in the future, I use the Sally Hughes tip. I saw her do this over on Instagram and I just thought it was genius. Why did I not think about doing this before? It's just a great tip. So firstly, I like to use a lip liner that is slightly deeper than my natural lip body, or slightly deeper than the lipstick that I'm going to be wearing. That way it just adds a little bit of definition. So for the Sally Hughes tip, all you need is to use your liner, start from the outer corner of the lip, and in one motion, just feather-like strokes, go all the way up to the Cupid's bow. By doing it this way, you are overlining the tiniest amount, but it is a fraction of a millimeter. It does the job, but it doesn't look over the top. I then go straight across right at the top. That's where I'm really overlining, and that's where the fullness of my lip will come into effect. So that is it for my tips and tricks. If you want a few more tips and tricks from me, I did a video not so long ago. I will list that up here for you if you fancy checking that out. Thank you very much for watching today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye everyone.